Welcome back. Namibia has joined other African countries in closing airports and imposing a partial lockdown on the capital Windhoek to try and prevent the spread of the deadly coronavirus. The Southern African country reported its sixth confirmed case of infection and first local transmission of the virus that has killed more than 17,000 worldwide and ground economies to a halt. Namibia joined several African countries, including Nigeria, which have imposed travel restrictions to curb the spread of the coronavirus. And in Kenya, the government plans to seek help from the International Monetary Fund, pay pending bills to suppliers, and quickly process company tax refunds to support the economy in the phase of the coronavirus crisis. The central bank governor, Patrick Njoroge, told journalists that the government is seeking emergency assistance from the IMF of up to $350 million, which could be directed towards budget support. The Kenyan government is also looking to seek $750 million support from the World Bank. Kenya has 25 confirmed cases of COVID-19, and the disease is hurting crucial tourism and farm exports. And as South Africans brace for a stringent 3-week lockdown intended to curb the spread of COVID-19, which has already infected more than 700 people, South African Airways has announced the suspension of all its domestic flights from Friday until April the 16th. The government has instructed both law enforcement agencies and the National Defence Force to maintain law and order during this time of uncertainty. Our South African Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, joins us now to tell us how the citizens are gearing up for this lockdown. Good afternoon, Betty. Well, tell us, how are South Africans bracing up for the 3-week lockdown, which begins midnight on Thursday?
BBC. Well, it's going to be a hectic 3 weeks for the people, but they have no choice. Many who are worried about the economy, you have to have people alive and healthy to build an economy. So people are having their questions answered, and they have quite many, clarifications on expectations from them, how they are supposed to conduct themselves. This is the first time this is going to happen, a lockdown for 21 days. Already things had been scaled down in the past few weeks when the numbers kept rising. Now we're standing at 709. So many of the ministers are holding a series of briefings to clarify a number of things. We've had the transport minister, we've had the health minister who keeps updating the figures officially every day, especially in the mornings. And later in the day, we're going to have the security cluster. A number of ministers. Before them, at 2 o'clock local time, you have the minister for energy and 2 other ministers giving their own perspectives on things that are going to be done for the people. And then a little later in the day, 4 o'clock local time, which is your 3 o'clock, you have the security cluster, a number of ministers. We're expecting about 9 of them to tell the people what is expected of them and how the lockdown is going to be enforced. And what the people, the exemptions, probably answering the questions, who are the people exempted from the restrictions on movement of the people.
Well, talking about that briefing now, of course, you just mentioned that the Justice, Crime and Prevention and Security Cluster is briefing the media today addressing the issue of enforcement. But what has been said so far regarding this?
As I said earlier, it will be about 4 o'clock local time, that's your 3 o'clock, that will have that particular briefing that you're talking about. And so there's nothing to say other than what they had told us previously, that the military will be deployed to help enforce this, helping the police, of course. And there will be spotters, especially in places like drinking places where they're not expected to have people gathered. So we're waiting to hear what next they're going to tell us. We still have about 24 hours plus 6 hours or so before that lockdown. We're expecting that about 4 o'clock.
Well, how has the pandemic affected businesses so far since it broke out, especially with the growing number of confirmed cases daily?
Well, I'll answer your question with a question. Has this pandemic not affected every single aspect of our lives? Business has been affected, but those who are able to work remotely, to work from home, are affected somewhat, but not as much as those who need to be at their place of business daily, especially the very small business. There are quite a number of initiatives that government has spelled out. You have the Ministry for Tourism pledging about an amount of money running into millions to help small businesses. You have other departments, the Department of Land and Agriculture, so pledging some amount, about 200 million rand, for businesses that will be affected. So the main worry now, and then the UIF, which is the Unemployment Insurance Fund, I think, pledging to help at their guidelines in place on who they can help, especially or specifically, they are locals, local businesses, and what they can do. We've been told during the lockdown that the grocery stores will be open, but crowds are supposed to be avoided. But the main worry are the micro business people who earn a living or get to eat from what they sell per day. Those are the many people that probably the safety net may not really effect change for. But as the government said, they're making efforts and modifying all the things that are in place to make sure that people don't suffer too much. But this is something that the government feels has to be done in order to curb the spread of the virus. As I said earlier, now we're at number 709 of confirmed cases. And there is the issue of some unallocated numbers that have tested positive. They can't really trace these people. And to the government, this is hampering efforts. But hopefully this will be done. So the main worry now, apart from all other initiatives, there are foreign nationals here who are doing small businesses. Of course, they're not covered by some of these efforts. Hopefully, the spread will reduce and life will get back to normal. But within those 3 weeks, it's going to be a hectic time for many people, especially the very small business people. I was speaking to somebody at the Union Buildings on Monday, and he is a local, and he said, I depend on the tourists that come to the Union Buildings. I take their picture. It's the money that I get from these pictures that I use for eating for that day. And this is not going to happen, within this time. It had already even reduced at the time. But hey, the big businesses may not suffer too much. Incidentally, the rand recovered a little bit of the strength it lost, standing currently at 17 rand 39 to the US dollar. So for bigger business, it's not business as usual, but the worst hit will be those who are doing really very small micro businesses. And hopefully people will get better and life will get back to normal.
We all can't wait for life to get back to normal. Many thanks, South Africa Bureau Chief Betty Dibia. And of course, while South Africans prepare for the lockdown, Old Mutual Limited has announced that it would be pledging 50 million rand toward a comprehensive COVID-19 response in partnership with government, business, labor and civil society. This relief package will primarily be channeled towards educational initiatives that address both immediate and emergent needs across the sector brought about by the impact of COVID-19. The business has, over the past 2 weeks, been actively engaging its partners via the Business Unity South Africa channels to ensure that the delivery of relief efforts is aligned and effective. And that's where we end our program today. Thank you for watching. I am BC Adebayo.